This is a banjo right here. It's got 5 strings on it, and it plays a G when you strum it. This is one of many instruments, like all of these right here, that you can learn yourself to maybe extend your life or remove some stress. There's many other reasons, like meeting new people and learning new experiences along the way. So I formulated a band called the Old Dirty Ditches, which I play all of these instruments on stage. I've also formulated a company called Plattsburgh String Instruments. And I've taught many students how to play all of these instruments. And depending on the person, there's a different instrument for everyone. And maybe by the end of this speech, that you'll know your own. So, inherently, as humans, we are all different. We all have different qualities, we all have different fingerprints, we all see and perceive differently, but the one thing that keeps us the same is our brains. So our brains do 2 things. They consume and they perceive or interpret. They take in information, interpret it, and then act on that said information. So with all that in mind, your brain's pretty important. And with music, for instance, the American Medical Society had an article about how they would play music when surgeons would operate, and they proved to be more accurate and to be more efficient when they did do this. And that's just music playing. Here's a quote from a very prestigious place named hopkinsmedicine.org. When 13 older adults took piano lessons, like this one right here, that is out of tune, which makes it better. Just kidding, it doesn't. So, anyways. When 13 older adults took piano lessons, their attention, memory, and problem-solving abilities improved, along with their moods and their quality of life. End quote. So along with their moods and quality of life, it improved. How did it improve? How did that make your mood better? Maybe it's because your cortisol levels went down. Cortisol levels are a chemical in your brain that makes you stress out, and when it goes down, you have lower stress, and it's been proven by that. Like from McGill University. McGill University in Montreal studied 400 research papers regarding neurochemistry of music. We found many benefits, including a boosted immune system and lower cortisol levels that affect your stress. And that's straight from McGill University. And so anything to lower your stress levels is just what I'm trying to prove, is one of the many things that why not? Why not pick up your instrument? Why not find one of these and learn? Here's an example about maybe if you pick up a guitar, you're going to be like, man, this is hard. I don't want to keep doing this after a couple days. Well, what about when you were in keyboard class? You're sitting around, you're talking to your friends. Well, I'm in keyboard class, and they're like, that's not good. You're going to need to work on that because it's going to be a hard class. So you go and you're typing on your keyboard, and you're like, man, I'm not doing well. So you keep typing, and then the end of the class comes and you graduate. So you've graduated and you're sitting there, and now you're in college. So you're sitting there on your first day of college, and your teacher's like, well, you got a paper due. So you're like, man, I'm sure glad that I learned how to type. Well, it's the same thing with learning music. You're going to be very glad that you learned how to do it. So there's many different things like this. This is the stand-up bass. The stand-up bass is much different from something like this, the regular bass. Now, if you're into working out, you would definitely play something like this, because an hour of into playing this, every muscle in your body is going to hurt. This is big, and it takes a lot of strength to push down. Meanwhile, like this does not. So, if you're into playing metal, or you like listening to metal, I would recommend something like this. if you're into listening to jazz or bluegrass, I would recommend something like this. Now, there's a couple of instruments like the electric guitar that will go well with the electric bass. But if you're thinking acoustically, like bluegrass and jazz, there is stuff like the mandolin and stuff like the banjo. Now, many people start with the guitar, but what a lot of people don't know is the guitar is the hardest one to learn out of all these instruments because of the way it's tuned. And all of these strings are tuned to a certain note. For example, E, A, D, G, B, E is what the guitar is tuned to. That's called a standard tuning. So because it's in a standard tuning, it's going to be much harder to learn how to play because there's many more variations that you have to make on your fretboard. Unlike the banjo, for example, is in G, D, G, B, D, which is an open G, which means you only have to push on a certain amount, making this a beginner instrument. Another beginner instrument would be the ukulele. The ukulele is made out of nylon strings. The strings are made out of nylon, so it makes it easier to push down on. It's small and compact, so you can bring it wherever you want to go to practice, making it easier for you to practice, making more practice. This is what I would recommend starting on for any musician, because once they conquer this, they can conquer any instrument. So, with all that said, you could think of instruments as healing you, because if you're sitting there making all this progress, you're lowering your cortisol levels because you're like, wow, I'm incredible, look at all this stuff that I'm doing that I cannot believe I'm doing. Not only is there that, but think of all of these as a video game. Every single one of them is a different thing that you can learn. It could be like learning music theory. Music theory is how you know that this is a E and this is an A, D, and a G. And why? Think of it as English. So music theory is English, and music, or all these instruments are like your vocabulary. And once you learn English, it's very easy to add to your vocabulary. So if these could potentially lower your stress and bring more joy to your life without taking prescription medications, why not try it? If you've already passed keyboard class, then you can pass another class, and this could last for the rest of your life. Thank you, I'm Todd Steffi.
Woo!